So things may just mean more in the SEC, according to them. However, we did see a Big Ten team win the national championship. And remember, strength of schedule means more now than it ever has before, especially when it comes to trying to get into the college football playoff, your seeding, how things shake out. So we are going to go through the strength of schedule for some of the teams in the SEC. Again, you can find the entire list on CBSSports.com. Let's welcome in Brandon Marcello here, college football expert. We're going to start with the toughest. It is Vanderbilt. I guess the good thing for Vanderbilt is that Diego Pavia is their quarterback, because I do believe he is the toughest quarterback, or at least the toughest personality in the SEC. But for Vandy, I mean, they finally get a winning record. This is just kind of like a kick in your stomach.
Oh, yeah, and the target's on their back now, maybe for the first time in more than a decade for Vanderbilt. Everybody in the SEC knows how good they are and what they can be, and they return a lot of guys, right? They should even be better than they were last season, but you can bet the likes of Alabama are going to have their sights set on them. There's no way they're going to overlook them. They're going to be, that might be one of the games that Alabama plays its hardest after the way they were defeated and upset in Nashville last year. And the bad thing for Vanderbilt here, schedule-wise, is that their three easiest games are all in September. You could argue that's a way to warm up going into the schedule, but oh my gosh, is it brutal going into October. All in a row here in October, they have to play Alabama, LSU, Mizzou, and Texas, all in a row. My goodness, where is a win there? I don't know. Yes, they beat Alabama last year. We know that, but that's on the road. Texas, on the road. We're talking about one of the most brutal schedules in all of college football, and Vanderbilt is not flying under the radar. Everybody's going to want to beat the crap out of them, considering, as you said, Diego Pavia being seen as this leader and someone who's a big-time personality in college football. All these coaches, all these players are going to want to shut them up this year.
And not just that, now for Alabama, that's a revenge game for them, and they definitely want to put them in the ground. Okay, third toughest, we get Arkansas here on the road against Ole Miss, Tennessee, LSU, Texas as well, so not looking for them as well. Sam Pittman, I was reading, maybe if they get a bowl game, that could change, or excuse me, save his job. Can they find that in this schedule?
It's very difficult, and last year getting to a bowl game is what saved his job. So getting to a bowl game again, is that still going to keep them happy? They want to win more games at Arkansas. They want to win more games at any SEC program, but my goodness, you look at the schedule, oh, where are the wins? They also have to play Notre Dame early in the season, the national runner-up. Yes, they get Notre Dame in Fayetteville, but Notre Dame's a much more talented team, as we know, than the Razorbacks. Also consider this, not being talked about a lot because it's not a game that's going to pop on your radar, but they play in-state foe Arkansas State this year. The school of Arkansas has never played Arkansas State in football or men's basketball. Why? Because they wanted to smother that program. They didn't want to allow another fan base to rise up in this state with only about 2 million people. But things have changed, and they opted to go ahead and schedule Arkansas State, and they did so at a time where their head coach at Arkansas is on the hot seat. And by the way, they're not playing this game in Fayetteville. They're playing it in Little Rock. It's a neutral site game between Arkansas State and Arkansas, with them splitting up the tickets. So if he loses that game early in the season, they might be making a change during the year instead of waiting till the end, because there's so much more impetus on the importance of that game. Brutal, brutal schedule filled with landmines.
Woo Pig Suey just got a lot quieter. Let's go to seventh toughest, which it kind of is in the middle, a little bit tougher than most of it. LSU, we recently put out a ranking of SEC quarterbacks. Garrett Nussmeier didn't come in at number one. This is a team that wants to win the SEC title. They want to go further than that. I want to start with the very first game, though. LSU has now lost 5 straight openers. They're on the road at Clemson. It starts there. Take us through the rest of it for LSU.
You just mentioned it right there. They're 0-5 in their last 5 season openers, and I would argue this is the toughest season opener they will have during that stretch, because a lot of those were neutral site games, right? They were big games, but they were neutral site. They have to go to Death Valley, or as Brian Kelly might say, Death Valley Jr. It's not the real Death Valley. My goodness, go ahead and just amp up Clemson more, BK. I mean, Clemson is stacked this year. They're a sleeper pick to win the national championship this season. Death Valley is rocking every single Saturday there at Clemson. They got a veteran crew, and they're going against an LSU team that everybody sees as maybe a threat in the SEC. You can bet Clemson's going to come out just clawing at their faces in this battle. And boy, Garrett Nussmeier, as talented as he is and how many touchdowns he can produce, he's also very prone to mistakes. We saw it in the season opener last year throwing picks. This, much different on the road.
I will say I went to my first LSU game last year at LSU in mini Death Valley, and I ate my way through the entire thing. That was the only thing I wanted to do. It's the only thing I did. Let's go to Texas here, a team that many think could win the national championship. You have Arch Manning coming into the building. They are 8th, so it was right smack in the middle of the SEC. When you take a look at their schedule, does it help? Does it hurt them? Or is it just a really good test to see how good this Longhorn team is?
Yeah, they're right in the middle for me as far as strength of schedule because everything's pretty spread out for them, right? They go to Ohio State to open the season, which is going to be the game of the week, the biggest game to open the year. Everybody's going to have their eyes on that. That's very difficult. We know that. They also have to go to Georgia, but that's not until November 15th. So they kind of got some bookends here to the season with some really, really, really tough teams. And they only played back-to-back road games once this season, and it's against Kentucky and Mississippi State. Not necessarily the Blue Bloods or the big-time Bulldogs in the SEC. So Texas has a manageable schedule with some very tough games in there, but they're not having to go on the road very much, and they're only doing back-to-back road games once this year, and it's against the bottom of the league. So very manageable schedule and really easy to pick Texas to win the SEC championship this year.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because the team that did win it is Georgia. They have an even easier schedule than Texas. They are ranked as the 3rd easiest schedule. They're only on the road. Tennessee, Auburn, Mississippi State. That's it. I mean, obviously they're on the road a little bit more. They fell apart, though, when it came to the college football playoff. Would you put money then on the Georgia Bulldogs to win the SEC?
I'd still put it on Texas, but Georgia, I think, is going to be back in the SEC championship game this year. They're built up a little bit better this season, especially, I think, in the trenches. They're going to be able to run the football a little bit more effectively, more consistently this upcoming season, which is something they struggled with, which was very surprising last season. That's why they weren't able to go deeper into the playoffs. But you mentioned the schedule there. Any schedule that's got Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas on it, you're just automatically going to say, wow, that's incredibly hard. But only one of those games is on the road, Tennessee. The other road games are Auburn and Mississippi State. Auburn's probably going to be middle of the pack of the SEC. Mississippi State's going to be in the bottom half. And then also consider this, their rival Georgia Tech, which we saw one of the great games all last season. Georgia Tech pushing Georgia to the brink. Georgia Tech probably should have won that game in Athens, by the way. Well, the game's not going to be played at Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta this year. It's going to be played at a quote-unquote neutral site at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and you can be sure that thing's going to be full, 80% Georgia fans, so that's a de facto home game for them. That's why, in a lot of ways, yes, you have 3 really tough opponents, but only one of them's on the road, and things are spread out for you. This is a very favorable schedule for Georgia.
Things are always louder between the hedges. Brandon Marcello, we appreciate it. That's why Uga has his little soundproof doggy thing. Brandon Marcello, we appreciate it. Taking a look at the odds to win the SEC. Texas coming in at number 1 at +280, followed by the Georgia Bulldogs, the reigning champs of the SEC. Then Alabama, LSU, which Brandon mentioned could be a dark horse for the national championship.